Okay, so I wanted to talk about family stuff as I drink my wine. And it would have been nice for Julie to be here, but she's still putting the boys to sleep. And I don't think she's in the mood to be on a live stream tonight. So we'll just do it solo. Um, yeah, so they're like two things there are two like big things, right? Like there's the world out there that seems to be more hectic. Wanda Vienna has just joined. Hello, Wanda. And I am Carrie has just joined. Hey, how's it going? So there's the world out there that seems more hectic and difficult and scary. But it's also like the internal family life that seems so much more hectic. Uh, uh, and one of the things that I've realized is that when we're not imagining it, it actually is more hectic because I spoke to my mom about this. My mom, we're very lucky. My mom comes and looks after our boys twice a week after school because she wants to like spend time with them and they love her and we need the help. So she's been very gracious in helping us in that way. And we'll be talking to her about what we need to get done with the boys when it comes to just general school life or homework or things we have to think about when it comes to caring for making sure that they're watching the right stuff or not watching the right stuff, getting them ready for life, and even just like coping as an adult in this time. And she will be the first person to say that we have it harder than they have it. And this is a woman who lived through apartheid, so that says much, yeah. So having to somehow do your job, get your boys to do well at school. And what I mean by well at school it's not just marks. It's, are they physically healthy? Are they doing well at sports? Are they, do they have a good friend group? Are they liked? Are they, are there gaps that we're missing as parents? Which my parents never had to care about. They were just like, we're sending you to school. Like, your job is to figure it out. You go and you figure it out, and when you come out, you should be okay, kind of thing. Now we're like really concerned about all the aspects of the child, which it's neither here nor there, but it is an additional burden. The schools also expect more from parents now. I think there definitely is a much bigger expectation, especially in the early years. Oh, I say especially in the early years. I don't know if it gets worse or better actually as you get older, as your kids grow up. But I have seen that the schools do have a bigger expectation on the families to do work with and for the kids. So balancing that, obviously we're very lucky that we have a home, we have a house, but that house has constant maintenance needs. Look, to be fair, we bought a very rundown house. That went through a big renovation, but still needs a lot of maintenance. Just having a garden means that there's another thing you have to think about. There's dogs and cats, and I'm married to a wonderful lady, but she deserves some of my time and attention. I deserve some of her time and attention. How do we give that to each other when so much of our energy and time is taken up by other things that are also important? And then also what I've also realized is that as we're getting older, our status in the broader family changes. So even in your early 20s and early to mid 20s, you're still like mostly below your parents and aunts and uncles. And as we're getting into as we're getting into our 30s, as we're getting into our 40s, like late 30s to 40s, it's starting to get to the point where our support is needed to other members of the family, whether it's advice or moral support or emotional support or financial support. We're fortunate that we don't need to do that, but I know a lot of my friends have, especially my friends of color, have black tax where they're financially supporting quite a few members of their family. So you're dealing with that as well. And then of course there's work. I again, I keep saying how fortunate I am. I'm fortunate because I think my work is my work life is fairly stable. It's quite healthy. I've got great colleagues. I enjoy my work, but it's still a thing, right? Like it's still a thing to think about. So my question to you, and this is another reason why I wanted to have this live stream, is to ask how do you manage? How are you coping with all of these things? Because I'm not saying I'm not coping, but I'm not coping, if you get it. So yeah, like in the chat, Steinbach saying 43, dreaming of cities. Steinbach, look, my knees are like 50 years old. So like my joints are as creaky as a 53-year-old. So you're younger than me in that way. Yeah. How are you getting by? Like, am I imagining that is a lot? Like, is that not actually a lot? Or is it, or do you have special ways of coping with stuff like this? I just think it's something that maybe when you sit back and take stock of how much is actually on your shoulders, maybe we shouldn't do that. Like maybe if you do that, suddenly you'll realize how tired you are. Kimmy Bullock saying it's a matter of just surviving at this point. Yeah, I think a lot of us are in that mode. But how long do we have to be in the surviving at this point, like mode in? I feel like there's so many people who are just constantly in there. You know, because you can't thrive and survive. Like you have to choose, right? Like if you have to be just in a survival mode, you can't be thriving. We know that for babies, and that I think the same applies to families and to adults and to people. And he's saying, I'm barely holding on and we haven't hit big school yet. Yeah. You know, and maybe also there are phases, that you cope with in different ways. So I do remember, having kids that are not in big school, and I'm not sure if it is easier when they're younger. Like there's a lot more, they're a lot more demanding, and the care that's needed is much greater than where they are now. You know, again, I'm fortunate I have two boys that are they're close in age. So now they're at school for half the day and they don't need constant supervision. Otherwise, they're not going to go and hurt themselves and kill themselves mostly. They need help. They need support. You know, they still need dad to come or mom to come and make them lunch and make sure they're not spending all of their free time on screens and actually doing their homework and all of those levels of support. And one of our kids definitely needs a lot more attention, like needs a lot more engagement. The other kid can kind of drift off and do his own thing. So we're still in that mode for that. And I know from what parents of teenagers have said, that's like, it doesn't actually get easier. It just gets harder in different ways. Kimmy Bullock saying, oh wait, let's go back. Andy saying, also the struggle is real with my privilege guilt. I feel it's not fair that I feel overwhelmed with everything that I have. Yes. Like I said earlier, like it's crazy. Like it'll be crazy for me to have this conversation with the people who have to live in tents down the road. Like they'll be like, dude, if I could have like half of what you have, then I'd be fine. What are you moaning about? So there's that guilt that gets added to it, but also knowing that like if you ignore the difficulties that you're having, that's not helpful either. Kimmy Bullock saying, it scares me that you're saying that though. As Andy says, my kids are small, 10 months old and 3 years old. Everyone says it's better when they're older, so you're not giving me much hope here. Yeah, and oh my gosh, Andy, you're speaking the truth, also feeling the privilege guilt. Look, I don't want to make parents of younger kids feel scared, because like I said, there are ways that it's easier, right? Like the physical attention that you have to give, like eyes on your children that you have to have, is diminished greatly. So like I had a friend over, he has 2 kids who are 6 months and 2 years old. So the same age gap as my boys. But at one point they were over, we were having pancakes and coffee. And I was like, oh, I wonder where the boys are. And the fact that I didn't know where my children were blew his mind. Now, I mean, I knew they were in the house somewhere. Like they were either in the room or playing in the yard or whatever. But he has to have direct contact with his children 100% of the time. And as you get older, that kind of goes away. You know, when I get into my great example was like when I get into a car with my kids, I have to take them somewhere. I get into the driver's seat, they get into their seats, they clip themselves in, I clip myself in, and we go. Now, I remember when they were younger and you have to clip the one in and then you have to walk around. You have to get the other one out the pram and do the whole thing. And then the one's screaming because he doesn't want to be in the car seat. And then you have to clip that in. And then you realize that like the seatbelt's twisted. So you have to spend like 5 minutes trying to like MacGyver the seatbelt to get back in, and you're bending over with like your butt crack out the car door, trying to like reach over to clip the child's seatbelt in because they haven't made a way to like do that easily yet. Even if you have like those isotronic clips that like you can't quite clip it in, and it's raining and the child's screaming because they're hungry and the other child needs to go to the bathroom. Then you realize like you've left your wallet inside. I remember all of that. That was not great. And it is definitely much easier now in that sense of the word. So, yes. And there are a lot of ways that I enjoy parenting much more at this age. But there are all the other life pressures that still happen, right? You still have work. You still have, like larger family drama and issues that you have to deal with. You still have, so yeah, they now have school stuff that you have to deal with, which is a burden, is an additional thing. Like it's almost like you're losing one part of the difficult part of parenting and you're gaining another part. They require more space and more energy often than maybe they were little. And with all of this, if you're married or in a partnership or like you have a partner, like that person, like I said, that person needs a slice of you too, because that's the person that like that's your ally, and you need to like build that relationship. Because if you don't, when the poop really hits the fan, sometimes literally, that is the person you need to call on, right? So how do you unfortunately, we're not giving each other much answers here, because I'm like, everyone's just been like, yeah, it's tough. Like everyone's just surviving.